Okay, so this is how far we got in drawing the first three patterns. And again, you'll notice that the attributes of these three patterns are the same. This first pattern on top is U-shaped. The second one is V-shaped. And the third one is kind of like a bracket pointing down instead of on its side. Normally a bracket would look like this. Specific type of bracket. This one's kind of laying on its side. I wanted to add one similar to this that a student did when they attempted to do this one, but they changed it up a bit. And here's what they did. Instead of doing this sort of a bracket shape, they actually did a very square looking bracket. And I'm exaggerating this because I'm going to do another one here right over the top of those two brackets. Please keep in mind that all of these drawings are practice. So it's okay to have other marks on here. Just like the previous three, this is a bracket, only it's squared. Same shape inside of that. Same shape inside of that. The center one from this point goes straight up. This one goes here. And this one's actually kind of cool because it almost looks like it has 3 dimensions to it as you start doing the pieces going on the outside. Here in the center, it's going to be just like this one and this one. So whether you go like this and do lines down like this, or again, as long as you're being careful, if you do a V shape, notice how much time I'm taking and how much care to start on the line, end on the line, and end on that line. I've gone over just a little bit here, but that's not going to bother me. Again, we're practicing, and we're practicing control, and we're practicing precision. You're not going to hit it every time, but just do the best you can. The other thing we're not super concerned about on the consistency, if I want to alter the distance here, instead of going straight across here and starting another bracket here, I'm going to go up here a little bit so that there's some variety to it. And again, I'm going right through those orange marker marks that I made a couple of minutes ago, because what I'm really concerned about is the process. Each one of these so far uses the same process and the same attributes or look and feel of the inside patterns. The other thing I want to mention when I'm doing this is I've been drawing for over 60 years. I started drawing when I was about 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll be 60, well, I'm 66 already. The kids love it when I say this, but next summer on my birthday, I'm going to be 67. And this is where all of the kids, when I mention it, say 6'7", because that's a current meme or saying or whatever the thing is. So again, these can be different lengths. One of the other things that I note on here, and you can see it pretty obvious here, see how thick these lines are? It's because I'm using a regular pencil. Students are using mechanical pencils. I'm going to overlap it slightly in a different way here. Because this is a 0.7 pencil, mechanical pencil, I can get a nice, consistent, thin line so that when I do my inside lines for the patterns, it's going to always be very consistent. Notice the difference between these lines and the one to my left here, and how thick and thin some of those lines are, because as you use a regular wooden pencil, the lead varies in thickness as you press down hard and you don't rotate the pencil on the paper. so that there's an inconsistency in the thickness of the lines. So what I mentioned a minute ago, when students see me draw, they think, oh well, Mr. Wing's drawing very fast right now, so I can go that same speed. The difference is, after having drawn for 6 decades, I can be precise and quick. And I do still make mistakes. That's not a huge deal, unless I continue to make the same mistakes. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about. If I was even just a slightly sloppier, consistently sloppy, all of these little lines where I'm going over a bit because I've gone a little too fast maybe, can be fixed very easily, very quickly, by slowing down just a little bit, being a little more precise, and drawing my lines carefully with a great deal of concentration, so that when I do my completed lines, they're a lot closer to hitting the actual lines that they should. It's a little difficult when you get to the middle of the page here. I went past the camera there, so forgive me for that. So when you get to the middle, since I know what the pattern looks like, I can go right off the edge of the page. It's going to be a little more evident on the other side over here, because I'm not going to be able to do a full bracket here. I'm just going to go over and down just a bit so that you can tell it's the same pattern. Since every other line is filled in, meaning that this line here, this area in here is not filled in, I know that this one, since it's the same part of the pattern, the outside edge is filled in, and these lines here, oops, missed a line. See, here again I made a mistake here, but I'm just going to go right over the top of it. I'm not going to erase. This one should have gone here like this, and then the center lines going to the middle of the square leaf shape go from there. Again, this is just practice. This is inside your sketchbook, and even though I made a mistake here, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I'm not going to worry about it. But I am going to concentrate a little bit more, a little better, so that I don't make those same mistakes again. And in particular, when we start using an ink pen to do these, because with an ink pen, you don't have the ability to erase. So again, there's another shape here. I'm going to go up the middle, do the upside down V shape here. The other thing I've mentioned in class, and I think on a previous video, is doing this type of art, because it is so repetitive, you can kind of get into a groove, and as you're doing the shapes over and over again, you can kind of get to a point where you're in almost a meditation. And this is where also, you've heard me say it in class multiple times, it is not necessary to stop drawing in order to talk to your neighbor. You can continue drawing and continue focusing on your work as you're drawing. So I think this is probably one of the easier shapes, this next one. I'm going to start right here in this area, and I'm just going to do a curlicue down to the center like that. Let me zoom in a bit. You can do this one was drawn clockwise. You can also go counterclockwise, and notice on this one I'm actually starting in the middle instead of on the outside. So you have that option. Again, you can either start, I'm going to start this time, I'm going to go starting here on the outside, the key feature here is you want all of these touching. Sometimes if you miss just a little bit like this, I want this touching, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around again till it touches there and stop there. Don't really want all these gaps in here either, so I'm just going to continue doing that shape around here as if it went around one more time or two more times. This one's kind of getting a bit large, but back up in here again, you can fill in those spaces like that. So again, going around the outside, doing that one counterclockwise, or if you want to, you can start in the middle and just keep going around until you strike one of the other shapes. As you might imagine, this particular pattern can get a bit mesmerizing. You can really put yourself into a state where you're concentrating and flowing very well in doing this particular pattern. And in order to fill in all the shapes, you're going to touch all the way around. And again, I'm just going to go back around here. I'm going to put another line here. I'm going to start on the inside of this one. You notice that a lot of mine are actually counterclockwise, meaning it's going this way instead of this way. So every so often I just like to mix it up and deliberately go in the opposite direction. It might take you a moment to get reacclimated to doing the motion. But again, this is one of the ways that it becomes less boring because you're switching it up. So this shape is more organic, meaning it's got more curves to it. A lot of these shapes like that one is very geometric. This one's more organic. The sharp ones are with angles, are more geometric. And again, those U-shaped ones that we started off with are very organic. Speaking of organic shapes, organic patterns, one of my absolute favorite ones starts off like this. I'm going to start right at the point here and just do a winding S shape. And then starting back here at the top, I'm going to do a little branch and then do something that looks like a flame, or in this case a leaf, and I'm going to alternate these when I do this. So they're not coming off of the same branch, but they're alternating. It's not necessary that these leaves all look the same. In fact, it's a little more interesting if they don't look the same at all. You can also, so that I want to fill in this area up here, I'm going to go off of this stem and then go around like that. Alternately, you can also draw the leaf first and then draw the stem to another leaf like this, which makes it look like the branch goes behind it or the leaf goes in front of the branch there. So again, you have the option of drawing the leaf first and then connecting it, or starting at this big stem here and just fit as many leaves in there as you can get. As I said a minute ago, this is one of my favorite patterns. It's very organic, very loose with regards to, it's not as geometric, it's not as stair-stepped like some of these look like leaves, or in this case they could look like feathers or scales up here at the top. But this one, you just sort of go and fill in the areas where you've got room. And even the shapes of the leaves are changing shape depending on where the space is and how accurate you're being in placing them, where you're starting and stopping. It's almost impossible from my perspective to have all of your leaves look exactly the same, which makes for, in my opinion, a much more interesting pattern. So I'm just continuing around. At this point, it's starting to look more like a vine than a small tree branch, because that's kind of how a vine grows and how leaves come off of a vine. If you want to get more creative, you can actually do leaves in front of and behind other leaves. So for instance, if I wanted to do one here, I could make this leaf look like it's going behind that one. My preference is that they're all unique, meaning you can see the entire leaf, but this is also okay. These leaves can almost look like flames on a candle. And all I'm doing is I'm filling up the space, making this area as dense as possible, so that when these are colored, either by hand or on the computer, you can have a lot of fun using the paint bucket tool and doing the leaves one color and the background another color. And when we get to the digital part of this, I'll show you in a demonstration how that works also. This is probably one of my favorite types of assignments with patterns. And I think part of that is because of the meditative aspect of it. Meaning you kind of get into a groove after a while. And it's really easy, if you don't set a timer, to lose track of time. So that's all I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to post this on YouTube and then add it to Google Classroom. In fact, you may have clicked on this link from Google Classroom.